This is my fourth stock market bubble. And the last times I remember in some of my earlier stock market bubbles, I just saw generational wealth that was going to pass on to my children slip straight through my hands. The very first I remember was the dot-com frenzy of the late 90s, where any company with a .com in its name seemed to double overnight, where every investor felt like a genius until the day that they weren't. My second was a housing mania of the mid-2000s, where everyone from your barber to your brother-in-law was a real estate expert. That one ended with the collapse of the Lehman Brothers and the global financial system teetering on the brink. My third was the everything bubble of 2021, a surreal era of meme stocks, NFTs, and speculative fever driven by cheap money and the everyday investor's boredom. And now here we are again with the great AI bubble, and the headlines are dizzying. With Nvidia's trillion-dollar leaps, the fear that if you're not all in on artificial intelligence, you're being left out in the dust of history. But because I've been on this roller coaster before, I know how it ends. And let me be clear, I'm not here to claim that AI isn't revolutionary technology, because it is, and it's likely going to change the world. But in the financial markets, there's a vast chasm between a world-changing idea and the pure madness of a speculative frenzy, and we are currently in the latter. We see companies with no profits and often no clear path to them valued in the tens of billions. It's a digital gold rush, and as with all gold rushes, the vast majority of prospectors will go home broke. But that doesn't have to be you. So, to make this clear, this video isn't about predicting the top. It's about preparing for it, and here's the playbook. Number one is your written plan is your personal armor against your own brain. The single most dangerous mistake that you can make in a bubble is to operate without a clear written plan. When prices are skyrocketing and your portfolio is setting new records every single day, it becomes extremely easy to believe that you're a financial savant or savant, as you want to call it. But inevitably, when the crash comes, you gain a primal fear of loss, and that fear of loss can just overwhelm you. So without a plan, you're going to be like a ship in a storm without a rudder, completely at the mercy of your own emotions. And this is a very well-documented psychological bias. Overconfidence and the Dunning-Kruger effect. It tricks us into overestimating our skill and then underestimating the risk during the boom. And then loss aversion sinks in, which is the proven principle that the pain of losing is psychologically to us twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining things. That takes over during the bust, compelling us to sell everything we have at the worst possible moment. So your plan is going to be your best defense against these innate flaws of being a person. It must include clear predefined exit strategies. What are your profit-taking targets? And at what point will you deliberately reduce your exposure? Because writing this down now, when your head is very clear and you're not scared or you're not feeling greedy, is like programming your GPS before a long journey. When the emotional fog of the market rolls in, you won't have to think at that point. You can simply execute. Now, number two, the automatic engine of your exit strategy. A plan is simply a theory until you have the mechanisms to execute it. For the very steady investor, that mechanism is called rebalancing. This is the most powerful yet underutilized tool for navigating a bubble and is extremely crucial to understand why this actually works. For example, imagine that you decided on a portfolio of 70% stocks and 30% bonds, just to make this simple. After a major rally in AI and technology stocks, let's say your portfolio might have shifted to 80% stocks and 20% bonds. That bubble has silently made your portfolio much riskier than you've intended. And rebalancing here means selling some of your winning stocks, using the proceeds to buy more bonds, and helping you rebalance to a 70-30 target. And this actually has several benefits because it forces you to do several critical things. It forces you to sell high because you're systematically taking profits off the table from the most inflated parts of the market. It also forces you to buy low because you're adding to assets that are currently out of favor or out of flavor, but are crucial for diversification and stability. It also manages risk automatically because it mechanically returns your portfolio to the risk level you are comfortable with, preventing you from becoming overexposed at the peak. It is also an emotional antidote because it feels counterintuitive to sell a winning investment. By making it a rule-based periodic exercise, let's say quarterly, you're going to remove the emotion from the decision. So you're not betting against AI in this case. You're just adhering to your own discipline and whatever your targets were. Number 3 is your cash fort is dry powder, not defeat. The proceeds from your rebalancing, they don't just have to go into bonds. If your gut is screaming that valuations are completely unhinged, it's perfectly normal to consciously build a cash position. This isn't about market timing, it's about personal risk management. And I'm also not suggesting or advocating that you go 100% for cash. That's a bet on financial apocalypse, which is usually a losing situation or a losing bet. I'm talking more about a strategic shift. Perhaps you decide that for your peace of mind and for your specific circumstances, like being close or near retirement, that you might want to reduce your stock allocation from 70% to 60%, with that difference going or ending up in cash. This cash is not dead money. You can call it dry powder. And it serves two very powerful purposes. Number one is that it is a financial security blanket because it provides immense psychological comfort knowing that you have a buffer to cover expenses without being forced to sell your other assets at a loss during a downturn. And number two is strategic ammunition. When the bubble eventually deflates and quality assets go on sale, this cash gives you the capital to be a buyer when everyone else is a panicked seller. Remember, they always say that history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. Where the buzzwords just change from .com to subprime to now AI. But the patterns of human greed and fear, they're still constant. They're still the same thing. And you have a choice now. You can be a spectator, all in on Wall Street bets, mooning or memeing to the top, and convinced that this time is going to be different. Or you can be the steady investor, the boglehead, the one that has seen this movie before and knows how the third act unfolds. And remember that your job isn't to make sure you sell at the peaks and buy back in at the lowest. That's timing the market is usually a fool's game. Your main goal is just to stay disciplined, stick to your portfolio strategy, stick to your investing strategy, and through time start accumulating and building wealth, riding through storms or weathering storms or any of these bubbles, and still just coming out on top in the end. And you can turn markets, whenever they have this temporary insanity, you can turn that into your long-lasting or long-term long-lasting wealth. That's about all I have for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.